Imagine living somewhere where your birthday comes every 11 days, where you age 33 years every Earth year, where the sun never rises or sets, and time itself becomes meaningless. This isn't science fiction. This is Proxima b, the closest potentially habitable exoplanet to Earth, and it's the most psychologically devastating place humans could attempt to colonize. Not because of radiation, not because of the lack of atmosphere, but because of something far more insidious. An 11-day year that will systematically destroy every biological clock in your body. Welcome to the Temporal Nightmare at the edge of Alpha Centauri, where the greatest threat to colonists isn't the hostile star, it's their own minds turning against them. Let's talk about what an 11-day year actually means, and why it's far worse than anyone realizes. Proxima b orbits its star at a blistering pace, one complete orbit every 11.2 Earth days. To put this in perspective, Earth takes 365 days to orbit the Sun. Mercury, the fastest planet in our solar system, still takes 88 days. Proxima b? Just 11 days, and it's made a full trip around its star. The reason is simple. Proxima b orbits ridiculously close to its star, at just 0.05 astronomical units. That's 7.5 million kilometers. It's sitting at less than 1/8 the distance Mercury maintains from our Sun. At 20 times closer to Proxima Centauri than Earth is to the Sun, the planet screams through space at approximately 150 kilometers per second just to maintain its orbit. Now here's where it gets psychologically disturbing. Humans have evolved over millions of years with one fundamental constant, the 365-day year. Our concept of seasons, our agricultural cycles, our cultural celebrations, our very understanding of age and time, all of it, is built on this foundation. On Proxima b, you'd celebrate your first birthday 11 days after landing. Your second birthday 11 days after that. By the time one Earth year passes, you've experienced 33 Proxima years. A decade on Earth? That's 331 years on Proxima b. You might think, so what? We'll just keep Earth time. But here's the problem. You can't. Because Proxima b's year isn't just a calendar issue. It's a physical, environmental reality that will impose itself on every aspect of your existence. The planet's 11-day orbit means genuine changes in your environment. If Proxima b has even a slightly eccentric orbit, and evidence suggests it might, colonists would experience actual variations in temperature, radiation levels, and light intensity throughout each 11-day cycle. These aren't arbitrary numbers on a calendar. These are real environmental fluctuations that your body will perceive and respond to. Imagine seasons that change every 3 days. A winter that lasts 72 hours. A summer that arrives before you've finished unpacking your winter clothes. This isn't just inconvenient. This is cognitive torture. Research on Earth has shown that even minor disruptions to seasonal rhythms cause significant psychological problems. Seasonal affective disorder affects millions of people simply from the change in day length between summer and winter, a gradual shift over months. On Proxima b, those shifts would happen over days. But wait, it gets worse, much worse. Proxima b is almost certainly tidally locked to its star. And this is where the real psychological horror begins. Tidal locking means the same face of the planet always points toward Proxima Centauri, just like how the same side of the moon always faces Earth. For Proxima b, this means one hemisphere experiences eternal daylight under a red sun that never moves in the sky, while the opposite hemisphere exists in perpetual darkness, lit only by distant stars and possibly the faint glow of Alpha Centauri A and B on the horizon. No sunrise, no sunset, no day, no night, ever. Let that sink in for a moment. Humans evolved under a 24-hour day-night cycle. This rhythm is so fundamental to our biology that it's literally encoded in our DNA, the suprachiasmatic nucleus in your hypothalamus. Your body's master clock regulates when you sleep, when you wake, when your body temperature peaks, when hormones are released, when your immune system is most active. All of this is synchronized to a 24-hour cycle by exposure to light and darkness. This isn't cultural or psychological. This is hardwired neurology. Your circadian rhythm is as fundamental to your physiology as your heartbeat. On a tidally locked world, this entire system collapses. If you settle on the day side, you're exposed to constant light. Studies of humans exposed to constant light for even a few weeks show devastating consequences. The body's melatonin production, crucial for sleep regulation, becomes erratic or stops entirely. Without the darkness signal, the suprachiasmatic nucleus loses its ability to maintain proper timing. Within days, colonists would begin experiencing symptoms: insomnia, daytime fatigue that doesn't correlate to any actual daytime, difficulty concentrating, memory problems. Within weeks, depression, anxiety, mood swings. Within months, the risk of more severe psychiatric disorders skyrockets. A 2020 study published in Translational Psychiatry found that circadian rhythm disruption through exposure to light at night is directly linked to major depression, bipolar disorder, anxiety, and even schizophrenia. The mechanism is clear. When your body can't tell day from night, the delicate timing of neurotransmitter release, hormone production, and neural activity becomes chaotic. And that's just from abnormal light exposure on Earth, where other time cues, temperature changes, social schedules, meal times, still provide some structure. On Proxima B's day side, even these secondary cues would be disrupted. The night side isn't any better. Constant darkness would be its own special hell. Human psychology is not equipped for perpetual night. Studies of people living in extreme northern latitudes during the polar winter, when the sun doesn't rise for months, show increased rates of depression, suicide, alcoholism, and relationship breakdowns. And they know the sun will eventually return. On Proxima B's night side, it never does. The only potentially habitable zone would be the Terminator region, the narrow band between the eternal day and eternal night, where you might experience something resembling twilight. But even this twilight zone would be psychologically destabilizing. Imagine living in permanent dusk. No bright midday sun to wake you up. No darkness to signal sleep. Just endless gray-orange twilight under a dim red star. Your body would desperately try to establish a rhythm. Any rhythm. But without clear environmental signals, different people's circadian systems would drift to different periods. Some might settle into 22-hour cycles, others 26-hour cycles. Social cohesion becomes impossible when everyone is living on a different biological clock. Now let's combine these two nightmares, an 11-day year and tidal locking. The result is something unprecedented in human experience: complete temporal disorientation. Here's what a colonist's experience would be like. You're living in a habitat on Proxima B. Let's say you're in the Terminator zone for maximum habitability. You've set up artificial day-night cycles in your habitat, lights on for 16 hours, off for 8 hours, trying to maintain an Earth-normal circadian rhythm. But every 11 days, Proxima B completes another orbit. If the orbit is even slightly eccentric, the environmental conditions outside your habitat change. Maybe it gets a bit warmer as the planet reaches perihelion, the closest point to the star. Maybe radiation levels spike. Maybe the angle of the red sunlight shifts slightly. Your habitat's sensors detect these changes. Your mission control adjusts protocols accordingly. Everyone knows another year has passed. Calendar notifications pop up. perhaps there's a mandatory New Year systems check. The psychological impact is immediate. Another year is over and you've only been here days. Now, humans are remarkably adaptable. You might think colonists would simply ignore the 11-day year and stick to their artificial 24-hour days. But that's not how the human mind works. Studies on circadian disruption show that even when people try to maintain artificial schedules, their bodies respond to environmental cues, a phenomenon called entrainment. Your biology wants to sync with something external. On Earth, that's the 24-hour light-dark cycle. On Proxima b, what does it sync with? The problem is there are competing signals. Your habitat's lights say 24 hours. Proxima b's orbit says 11 days. Your mission schedule might follow Earth time for communication purposes, but radio signals take 4.2 years to reach Earth. So real-time coordination is impossible anyway. 3 different temporal frameworks, none of them aligned, all competing for dominance in your brain. This is called chronodisruption, and it's far more serious than jet lag. A 2011 study in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences placed mice in 20-hour light-dark cycles, just 4 hours off from their natural rhythm. Within weeks, the mice showed weight gain, elevated stress hormones, reduced cognitive function, and structural changes in their brain neurons. 20-hour cycles caused brain damage. Imagine what an 11-day year with no day-night cycle would do. But let's go deeper, because it gets even more disturbing. Your body doesn't just have one clock, it has trillions. Recent research has revealed that virtually every cell in your body contains its own circadian clock. Your liver has a clock that regulates when it processes nutrients. Your pancreas has a clock that controls insulin release. Your immune cells have clocks that determine when they're most active. All of these peripheral clocks are normally synchronized by the master clock in your brain, which is itself synchronized by light exposure. On Proxima b, this entire hierarchical timing system breaks down. Your brain's master clock tries to follow your habitat's artificial lights. But your peripheral clocks, isolated from direct light exposure, start to drift. Your liver might be running on a 25-hour cycle while your immune system operates on 23 hours. This internal desynchronization is catastrophic. A 2021 study in the Journal of Clinical Investigation found that circadian misalignment between different body systems leads to metabolic syndrome, cardiovascular disease, immune dysfunction, and accelerated aging. Let me repeat that. Living on Proxima b could literally make you age faster than you would on Earth, even if every other environmental factor was identical. Now let's talk about something that sounds trivial but is psychologically devastating. Birthdays and aging. Humans are obsessed with age. It's one of the first questions we ask when meeting someone. It structures our entire social hierarchy: children, adolescents, adults, elderly. Our legal systems are built around it. Our sense of identity is inseparable from how old we are. On Proxima b, the concept of age becomes meaningless. If you arrived at Proxima b at age 30, how old are you after 1 Earth year? Biologically, you've aged 1 Earth year, but you've experienced 33 Proxima years. Are you 31 or 63? Both? Neither. You might think colonists would simply keep Earth years, but language doesn't work that way. When someone asks how long you've been on Proxima b, and the answer is 50 years, your brain automatically processes that as half a century, a significant chunk of a human lifetime. But in Earth time, it's been 18 months. Now imagine children born on Proxima b. They have no intuitive understanding of Earth years. To them, turning 1 year old happens every 11 days. By Earth year 5, they've celebrated 162 birthdays. How do you even explain to a child that they're somehow both 5 years old and 162 years old simultaneously? This isn't just confusing, it's identity-destroying. Developmental psychology shows that children build their sense of self partly through understanding their place in time. "I'm 6 years old" is a foundational statement of identity. On Proxima b, that statement becomes gibberish. Teenagers would hit puberty at 300 years old. Adults would retire at 2000 years. People would die of old age at 3000 twice. The numbers become absurd. And when the numbers become absurd, the entire framework of human development collapses. Or, alternatively, colonists stick to Proxima years for simplicity, in which case children reach adulthood at age 5, 55 Earth days. People are considered elderly by age 30, 1 Earth year. Lifespans are measured in thousands of years, but everyone still dies in their 70s. The cognitive dissonance is equally unbearable. There's also a darker psychological element. Rapid age accumulation, even if artificial, affects how people perceive their mortality. Research on time perception and mental health shows that when people feel time is passing too quickly, they experience increased anxiety, depression, and existential dread. On Proxima b, time isn't just passing quickly, it's racing. You're getting older at 33 times the normal rate. Even if you intellectually understand this is just orbital mechanics, the psychological weight of watching year after year tick by in days rather than months would be crushing. And then there are the social rituals. Birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, all the temporal markers that give human life structure and meaning. On Earth, these are spaced out over a year, creating anticipation, rhythm, and moments of celebration. On Proxima b, they'd arrive in rapid-fire succession, losing all significance through sheer repetition. Imagine Christmas every 11 days. Your birthday every 11 days. Your wedding anniversary every 11 days. At first, maybe there's novelty. By the 10th time, the 100th, these milestones become meaningless rituals stripped of emotional weight. Humans need temporal spacing for meaning. We need time between events to process, reflect, and build anticipation. Proxima b's 11-day year robs us of that spacing. Everything becomes a blur of constant, meaningless repetition. Now let's consider the most disturbing question. What happens to children raised on Proxima b? Children born on Proxima b would be the first generation of humans to develop without a proper circadian foundation. Their suprachiasmatic nucleus would form under completely alien temporal conditions. We have no idea what this would do to their neurodevelopment. Studies of premature infants kept in neonatal intensive care units environments with irregular light-dark cycles show they develop circadian rhythm disorders that persist for years. Their sleep patterns are disrupted. Their cognitive development is delayed. Their risk of behavioral problems increases significantly, and those infants were only in disrupted environments for weeks or months before returning to normal conditions. Children on Proxima b would experience disruption their entire lives. Recent research published in Frontiers in Neuroscience found that circadian disruption during adolescence, when the brain is still developing, leads to increased risk-taking behavior, substance abuse, and difficulty with impulse control. The effect was permanent, persisting into adulthood even after circadian rhythms were normalized. Imagine an entire generation growing up with impaired impulse control. In an isolated space colony, where survival depends on following safety protocols and maintaining social cooperation, this could be catastrophic. There's also the question of biological development. Human growth is profoundly regulated by circadian rhythms. Growth hormone is released primarily during deep sleep, which typically occurs during the early night hours in a normal 24-hour cycle. On Proxima b, with disrupted sleep patterns, would children even grow normally? Studies of children with circadian rhythm disorders show they often experience growth delays, delayed puberty, and developmental issues. These are children on Earth, where they still have access to sunlight and some environmental regularity. On Proxima b, the effects could be far more severe. And then there's education. How do you structure a school day when there is no day? How do you teach history when the concept of a year has lost all meaning? How do you explain to a Proxima-born child what seasons are, or why Earth humans are so obsessed with something as arbitrary as a 365-day cycle? These children would be neurologically different from Earth humans. Not genetically, their DNA would be identical. But epigenetically, developmentally, psychologically, they would be adapted to an environment that no Earth human has ever experienced. They would be the first post-human generation. Homo Proxima. Born human, but shaped by an environment so alien that their very perception of time. The most fundamental aspect of conscious experience is fundamentally different. And here's the really terrifying question. Could they ever come to Earth? A child raised on Proxima b, with no established circadian rhythm, transported to Earth with its 24-hour day and 365-day year, would their nervous system even be able to adapt? Or would they be forever trapped in a state of jet lag so severe it borders on psychosis? So, is colonizing Proxima b simply impossible? Or are there ways to mitigate this temporal nightmare? Let's explore the solutions, because if humanity is serious about reaching the stars, we're going to have to solve the time problem eventually. Solution 1. Complete environmental isolation. The most straightforward approach is to build completely sealed habitats with rigorously controlled artificial day-night cycles. Not just lights on timers, but full-spectrum lighting that mimics Earth's sun, including appropriate dawn and dusk transitions, temperature variations throughout the day, even artificial outdoor spaces with projected skies that change from day to night. Essentially, you'd build a piece of Earth inside a hostile alien environment and never, ever leave. This could work, but it requires perfect execution. Even minor light leaks from the outside environment could disrupt circadian rhythms. Anyone who works outside the habitat, miners, engineers, explorers, would be exposed to the planet's temporal chaos and would need extensive decompression periods to resynchronize their biology. There's also the psychological cost of complete isolation. Humans have an innate desire to experience the natural environment. Being permanently confined to an artificial bubble, knowing there's a whole planet outside you can never truly experience without risking your mental health? That's its own form of psychological torture. Solution 2. Pharmaceutical intervention. We could develop drugs that artificially regulate circadian rhythms, melatonin supplements, circadian stabilizing medications, maybe even genetic modifications to the clock genes in our cells to make them less sensitive to environmental disruption. This is theoretically possible. We are already developing chronobiotic drugs for treating circadian rhythm disorders on Earth. But keeping an entire population on permanent medication raises serious concerns. What are the long-term effects? What happens if supply chains fail? And can a chemically imposed rhythm ever truly replace a natural one? Research suggests probably not. Studies of blind individuals whose circadian systems can't sync to light show that even with medication, they often struggle with chronic sleep disorders and related health problems. And that's just one missing sensory input. On Proxima b, multiple temporal cues would be absent or distorted. Solution 3. Genetic engineering. Perhaps the most radical solution. Engineer humans whose circadian rhythms can adapt to non-24-hour cycles, or who don't require strong environmental cues to maintain internal synchronization. Some humans naturally have this to a limited degree. There's a rare condition called non-24-hour sleep-wake disorder, most common in blind individuals, where the circadian rhythm free runs without external time cues. These individuals naturally cycle through different sleep times regardless of the external environment. Most people with this condition find it debilitating because they're trying to function in a 24-hour society. But on Proxima b, where external cues are meaningless anyway, maybe it would be an advantage? We could potentially select for colonists who already have naturally flexible circadian systems, or use gene therapy to modify clock genes like period, clock, or BMAL1 to make them less dependent on external synchronization. But this raises profound ethical questions. Are we still talking about sending humans to Proxima b? Or are we talking about creating a new subspecies specifically adapted to an alien world? And once we start down that path, where does it end? Solution 4. Embrace the chaos. The final option is the most psychologically challenging. Accept that colonists will experience severe circadian disruption and build a society that can function despite it. This would mean abandoning traditional concepts of daily schedules. Instead of everyone sleeping at the same time, the colony operates on rotating shifts with no fixed day or night. People sleep when they're tired, work when they're alert, based on their individual biological rhythms rather than an imposed schedule. It sounds like chaos, but there's precedent. International Space Station crews already deal with multiple day-night cycles as they orbit Earth every 90 minutes. Antarctic research stations during the polar winter operate with minimal daylight cues. These environments show that humans can adapt to temporal irregularity, but it comes at a cost. Crews on the ISS and in Antarctica report persistent sleep problems, mood disturbances, and difficulty maintaining concentration. And they know their situation is temporary. They can count down to the day they return to normal conditions. Proxima colonists wouldn't have that psychological anchor. So what's the answer? Can humans actually colonize Proxima b, or is it a psychological death trap disguised as a habitable world? The truth is probably somewhere in between. Early colonists would struggle immensely. There would be mental health crises. Some people would break under the temporal stress. Mission planners would need to carefully screen for psychological resilience and natural circadian flexibility. But over generations, something remarkable might happen. Humans might adapt. We often think of evolution as something that happens over millions of years, but epigenetic adaptation changes in how genes are expressed without changing the underlying DNA can happen much faster. Within a few generations, Proxima colonists might develop population-level adaptations that make them more resilient to circadian disruption. Their children would grow up knowing nothing else. To them, an 11-day year would be normal. The concept of seasons lasting months would seem absurdly long. They would develop cultural practices, social structures, and psychological frameworks built around Proxima b's unique temporal environment. In a sense, they would become temporal aliens humans by genetics, but fundamentally different in their experience of time. When they look up at the night sky and see Earth's sun as just another star, they wouldn't be longing for home. Home would be Proxima b, with its impossibly fast years and eternal twilight. And perhaps that's the real answer to the time problem. Not solving it, but evolving beyond it. Creating a branch of humanity that experiences time so differently from Earth humans that we would struggle to understand each other's lives. There's something both beautiful and terrifying about that possibility. Beautiful because it represents humanity's incredible adaptability, our ability to make a home even in the most alien environments. Terrifying because it means the cost of colonizing the stars isn't just the years spent traveling. It's the fundamental transformation of what it means to be human. Proxima b sits just 4.2 light-years away. close enough that we could potentially send probes there within our lifetimes using breakthrough technologies like laser-pushed light sails, close enough that it feels almost within reach. But the real distance isn't measured in light years. It's measured in the gulf between Earth's 365-day year and Proxima B's 11-day year, between a world with sunrises and a world in eternal twilight, between a species evolved for one temporal reality and the alien rhythm of another. If we go to Proxima B and someday, we probably will We need to understand that we're not just traveling to another world. We're traveling to another experience of time itself. And that journey will change us in ways far more profound than any physical adaptation to gravity or atmosphere ever could. So when someone tells you about humanity's future among the stars, remember this. The greatest challenge won't be building the ships or surviving the journey. It'll be maintaining our sanity on worlds where time itself has become alien. Proxima B's 11-day year isn't just a curiosity, it's a warning. It's telling us that the universe doesn't care about our 24-hour days or our 365-day years. These are accidents of Earth's physics, temporary solutions that worked for one species on one world. Out there, among the red dwarfs and tidally locked worlds that make up the majority of potentially habitable planets, time runs differently. And if we want to live there, we'll have to change what it means to be human. The colonists who land on Proxima B won't just be explorers. They'll be time travelers of a sort, leaving behind the temporal rhythms that shaped our species and stepping into an alien chronology that will reshape them in return. And maybe, thousands of years from now, when the descendants of Earth meet the descendants of Proxima B, they'll realize they're no longer the same species, not because of genetics, but because they live in different streams of time. The 11-day year isn't just a quirk of orbital mechanics. It's a transformation machine. And anyone who steps into it will come out changed on the other side.